Welcome to Community Church, a Calvary Chapel Fellowship located in Hurricane, West Virginia. I'm Pastor Cameron, and this is Sermons in 7, the Gospel of Mark. And so this is a time where we take 7 minutes and just walk through the Gospel of Mark. And I've been so blessed to offer this to you, and just as I study and go through it, and I hope that this is an encouragement to you as well. This morning we find ourselves in Mark chapter 8, verses 13 through 21. And what's going on here is that Jesus has just come back from the Gentile territory where he performed miracles. He comes back and he's kind of confronted by the Pharisees who came out and they wanted a sign. And he says, no, you're not going to get a sign. But then he left them, verse 13, and got into the boat again and departed to the other side. He's with his disciples. Verse 14, now the disciples had forgotten to take bread, and they did not have more than one loaf with them in the boat. Now, if you remember back when Jesus fed the 4,000, they had 7 baskets full of leftovers. Not sure if that was still around, but if it was, they apparently had forgotten to take all that. And then these guys have 1 loaf of bread. All right, then he charged them. So Jesus says, he charged them saying, take heed, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod. And they reasoned among themselves, saying, is it because we have no bread? But Jesus, being aware of it, said to them, why do you reason because you have no bread? Do you not yet perceive nor understand? Is your heart still hardened? Having eyes, do you not see? And having ears, do you not hear? And do you not remember? When I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000, how many basketfuls of fragments did you take up? And they said 12. They said to him 12. And when I broke the 7 for the 4,000, how many large basketful of fragments did you take up? And they said 7. And so he said to them, how is it that you do not understand? And so Jesus was a little exasperated here with his disciples. He's like, why do you guys not get it? Why do you not remember? Why are you reasoning about what's going on in this boat with 1 loaf of bread? And you might be thinking like, oh, how are we going to, can we really cut this into 13 slices? And what is going to happen here? And Jesus says, I'm in this boat, right? Do you so quickly forget what I've done? When are we freaking out about the 1 loaf of bread that we have when the bread maker is in the boat with us? And so Jesus, he kind of chides them about why they're not understanding, how easily they forget. And can you not apply this to your life today? I know I can. How easily I forget the faithfulness of the Lord and what he's done in my life and what he's done in the other people's lives around me. And really, so 2 observations jump out to me today. And one is, don't forget. Don't forget the faithfulness of God in your life. Don't forget the faithfulness of God in the lives of those around you or the lives of people who have gone before us. I think of George Mueller. You want to be encouraged in your faith and you want to be encouraged in the faithfulness of God? Then read the biography of George Mueller and how the Lord came and just worked through and provided for this man and the ministry that the Lord had given him. So don't forget. Joshua was commanded, hey, go back into the Jordan and pick up these memorial stones. Why? So that you can remember and so that you can teach your kids. Hey, kids, come around. This is what happened when God worked on my behalf. We need to remember. I think of, of Nehemiah when he says, hey, the enemies come around him. And he says, remember the Lord your God and fight for your families. We need to remember the Lord and what he's done in our life. The second observation here is what Jesus says. Beware. Take heed. Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Herod. So what is Jesus talking about here? Well, we know that when the Bible speaks of leaven, it's usually not in a good context. It's usually in a context of this is yeast that works its way into the lives or it's yeast that works its way into the dough, right? So it's evil that works its way into our lives, or it's evil that works its way into the church. In this context, you could say that it is the false doctrine. It is the false teaching of what the Pharisees were doing. Jesus is confronting them. He confronted them back in chapter 7. And so he's saying, watch out. Beware that this false teaching doesn't invade your whole life. You need to be on guard. And I think of, the Pharisees were hypocritical. They were legalistic. That's what Jesus was confronting them about. And how many times, maybe you've been this way, maybe you know someone, their legalism, people who are legalistic, that's usually not just in one area of their life, but it spreads throughout their life. The same thing with false teaching and false doctrine. It usually just doesn't stay in one little corner, but it invades the church. And Jesus is saying, beware of this, take heed. And also, take heed, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, but also of the leaven of Herod, those who were following Herod. Well, what does that mean? There were people who were following Herod. They were looking to the world to fulfill what only God could fulfill, to bring about what only God could bring about. Do you find yourself there sometime? I know I do. Do you find yourself looking to the world to bring about those things that only God can bring about? Security, deliverance, faithfulness, provision, providence. These things that only God can do. Do you find yourself kind of looking to the world? Those were the two things that Jesus was talking about here. Beware of the hypocrisy, the false doctrine of the Pharisees, looking to the world here. And so we must remember those. Remember the faithfulness of God. Take heed. Beware of those things that would just completely invade our life. Confess it. Find someone to talk to. Hey, I need some help in this area. This stuff is coming into my life. I love what Warren Wiersbe says here. He says, our Lord did not often say beware, but when he did, it was important. God bless you. See you next time.